Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the APA Poolplayer Nation Podcast. I'm Becky Johnston. I'm here with Jason Bowman. Before we get started, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on our latest podcasts and all of the other content that we post, as well as going to our other social channels and subscribing, following, liking, all of those channels.
Do it now.
Do it now.
Do it now. We'll wait.
Giving you a second. All right. Jason, how's it going?
It's going well. We're into the fall. Lots going on. We've been here in the studio the last few weeks. We had Florian here a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And Mike Pinozzo last week. We did Billiards Digest Live. This week we had a little Halloween shoot. So it's been busy, and it's been like all things fall. So
I know. We've been super busy. It's like the last two podcasts have been all about Vegas.
Right.
But now we're kind of transitioning. I mean, we're still like everything we do is kind of
Vegas is always looming somehow.
Exactly.
Over us.
Vegas
always
is somehow looming, but
but USAM's coming up.
USAM's coming up.
The weather is changing, and we're moving towards the
It's
starting
starting to. Like you said, we had a shoot with Florian a couple of weeks ago. We've started to kind of push some of that content out.
Yeah, you can see that on the TikTok channel. Some of it's been on Facebook, so make sure you check that out.
Some of it's been posted on Reels.
I like the helmet cam stuff.
Right?
We did put that helmet cam on. And if you think Florian, if you were impressed by Florian before, you should see him when he puts a big heavy helmet on to do a point of view run out, which was pretty impressive actually. To see, because that helmet is very heavy. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do.
You definitely need to check that out.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, I know he makes it look easy, but it was far from easy for him.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do we got today? We kind of got the tale of two shows today, right?
We do, and we kind of had to transition a little bit. We had some plans for today's show, but life happens, right? And sometimes we have to transition last minute, and that's kind of what had to happen with today's show. Yeah,
a little over a week ago, most people now know or are aware that Hurricane Helene kind of rolled up the Gulf Coast of Florida, hit the Big Bend there of Florida, and then just kept on rolling through through Georgia into western North Carolina, parts of South Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and really left some communities just absolutely devastated. And so today, like I said, tale of two shows. We're going to spend the first half of the show talking a little bit about what's going on in some of those communities and ways that APA is stepping up. Because we've talked about this before, but, when it comes to APA, it really is about more than just pool.
It is.
It's about community. It's about coming together, and it's about, looking out for each other. And so I think we're going to talk a little bit about that today and highlight some of those efforts and hopefully maybe even get some others that are tuning in to want to act and help out where they can. And then we'll transition and talk more in the pool APA verse, if you will, about all things APA, and we're going to talk to one of our head referees and talk a little bit about the life of a referee. So it should be a good show, but like you said, and Becky does a great job putting together the topics for the show, but we did have to pivot with everything that's happened over this past week, because there are just, hundreds, if not thousands of APA members and, a lot of APA communities that have just been, devastated is the only word to use. And I think I was reading something about the hurricane. I think they said now it's the second deadliest hurricane in the last 50 years to Katrina.
Oh,
only
wow.
to Katrina. And, I've got a former neighbor that's on the Missouri Task Force 1. He's been down in Georgia. I think he's now in North Carolina. They do search and rescue.
Right.
And they've got, cadaver dogs. And so
wow.
they're actively there. He's been gone now for a week, and I think he's going to be there for another couple of weeks.
Wow.
So, that just tells you the level of devastation that's gone on, and really sad. Obviously, some of these communities, and we're going to hear from a league operator today that's been directly impacted in the Asheville area of North Carolina, and certainly it won't be inclusive of every area that we've had affected and all the efforts that we're doing, but we do want to shine a light on what's going on and what APA and its league operators and members are doing to make a difference. And it's good to see people coming together for, it's sad that it's something so devastating that it takes that,
right?
But it's nice to know that in this day and age when it seems really hard for people to agree on things,
Right.
that when something like this happens, they can come together for a common cause and do some good. So
Absolutely. And I think one of the things you'll see that we talked about in the interview with the league operator in Asheville that we'll talk about was the hurricane went up the Gulf Coast, but it eventually went into North Carolina, like you talked about. And that's not something that I don't think they see or that they were prepared for. In Florida, hurricanes are a little bit more common, and not that something that anyone ever wants to see or,
right.
The devastation. But in North Carolina, I don't think that they were ready for that.
Well, not that part of North Carolina. I mean, I know
that
the coastal area of North Carolina sometimes sees that stuff, but yeah, like you said, I mean, and don't be confused. Like this also had a devastating effect on the Florida coast.
Absolutely.
I've got some family there and some
you
ties to the Gulf Coast there, the Tampa area specifically, and there some of those coastal communities really got tore up and have already started to kind of try to clean up and clear some of that out. But like you said, it's kind of like here in St. Louis. We're in Missouri,
right.
And when there's a hurricane, obviously we're watching the news and we know, but I mean, we kind of assume that's going to affect somewhere else, right? Not near us. And I'm sure, and I know we're going to talk to Shante Barnes or Shine, who's in the Blue Ridge APA, and he kind of will mention that when we talk. I'm sure that, when you're thinking of a hurricane bearing down on Florida, you don't think 500 miles away that it's going to be devastating to your community.
Absolutely.
And so I think it caught some of these folks by surprise, no doubt. And like I said, has really left just wreaked havoc. 500-mile stretch up the path. I mean, even it was a week ago today. I think it was last Thursday night that it hit the coast of Florida. But then by Friday, even here in St. Louis,
yes.
I mean, we had several inches of rain last Friday. That's how quickly that storm moved, and how big it was. And so, you can only imagine in some of those mountainous areas where there's rivers and there's mountains with waters flowing down, and maybe, if there was already some pre-existing flooding, that's just a recipe for, no pun intended, for disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I tell you what, let's run the interview with Shine.
Sounds good.
And hear what he has to say. Again, Shante Barnes, we call him Shine. He is part of the Blue Ridge APA, which is in Asheville, North Carolina, and this is one of the areas hardest hit by the hurricane. We actually talked to him briefly yesterday. He was on his way to Charlotte because he's buying supplies to get back to his community. So. And the amazing thing about this, when you watch this interview, that I want people to keep in mind is Shine is a league operator, right? He derives his income from his league business, which is for the foreseeable future. I mean, we're not talking about weeks. We're likely talking about months.
Right.
He's out of business, and yet his focus is not there. His focus is on helping his community in any way he can. And so let's go ahead and roll that interview and hear what he has to say about what's going on in his community. All right, so we're joined by Shante Shine Barnes. Shine, good to see you, buddy. How are you, and where are you?
Good to be seen. I am currently driving, doing a supply run en route to Charlotte, bringing supplies back to my little old town in Burnsville. I am slowly but surely doing what I can to help out.
Yeah,
how you guys doing?
We're I think we're probably doing a little bit better than the folks back in Asheville. Of course, Shine is our league operator in the Blue Ridge APA. Big part of Blue Ridge APA is Asheville, North Carolina, the western part of North Carolina, which was absolutely devastated by Hurricane Helene last week. And Shine, I got to ask, I mean, last week, a little over a week ago, we were hearing about this hurricane moving up the Gulf Coast. And, we're in Missouri, you're in North Carolina. It's probably similar. Like, we don't think a whole lot about it here in Missouri because we don't live near the beach. Like, did you ever imagine, just a week ago or so that your entire community would be devastated by a hurricane?
Yeah. So we had no idea. It's the funniest thing too when it comes about it. I used to live out on the coast. So when I lived out on the coast, I remember back in, what is it, 99, we got hit by Bertha and then Fran like a month later. So we're out on the coast. We expect hurricanes. We prepare for it. We've got guys coming from Myrtle Beach and out towards the coast to come help us because we were completely unprepared. We got a real hard rain right before the hurricane hit, which saturated the ground, and then the hurricane hit, and it was so strong when it hit us, mudslides everywhere, and we've got so many trees that once they went down in the mudslides, man, it took everything. Like communities are just gone. It's a it's so sad to see.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: like, at what point, you know, last week or in the, after this all kind of unfolded, did you realize, like, holy cow, we're in big trouble here? Like, when for you personally, when did you realize, like, this is devastating us now?
So where I am, we got lucky. I live on the top of small little mountain where I am. So we got bad winds, some trees down, they fell away from the house. We got really lucky. And one of my wife's, her aunt, we went down to check on her, which was the next road over. And we started to see they had a little creek that ran through that pretty much looked like a roaring river. And we get over about to her house, and every single bridge, driveway, anything that had water on it was just gone, just washed away. So then we went, oh no, this is way worse than we thought. And then about that time, all communication shut down, all lights out, no power, no phone, no way to get out to anybody. But we knew things got serious just then. It was probably about Friday morning, about 11 a.m., where we went, oh no, this is bad.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen pictures and videos and things that are out there on the internet, and I mean, it looks like Asheville. I mean, almost looks like a ground zero type setting. I mean, is that how you would describe what it looks like right now there?
So how the way I can describe is, for every video you see, there's probably 10 more videos or 10 more non-video events that were way worse. I've seen a couple of them. I couldn't really watch it, but I just try to see the community or where it was. So many historic sites, our River Arch district gone. I drove through. We were trying to get connected. I had to drive almost, what we've been driving, about an hour and a half before I could get to where the grid was stable. I'm headed to pick up supplies near Charlotte, and I'm almost to Charlotte before we got good signal. It's anything that was by the river, gone. It's just gone. It's
Wow.
it's just gone. That's the word we've been using all week for everybody. I was down at the local shelter, and one of the guys there was giving me information, and he two-story house he just watched float away in the river. They were able to rescue him. They pulled him up the bank, but that's just, for every story you see on TikTok, there's 10 more of people that, and there's so many that didn't make it. My wife is on search and rescue right now, hoping, she's safe. So I, I don't know. I don't know. We were not prepared for this.
Mm.
Have you been able to be in contact with your APA members at all? Have you been able to have any kind of communication with any of them to see how they're doing?
So for about 2.5 days, we had nothing. And about, let's see, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what is it? Maybe Sunday night or something, things started to come back just a little bit. They were able to restore power in some of the main spots. And there was one spot in town that if you stood at the corner of the building and didn't move, you could get a bar. So I was able to call and let my mom know that I was okay. She was hollering. She was so happy because she hadn't heard from me in days. And once we were able to get stuff back, I've got a list of names of everybody that was in that area, and we're just on the phone calling. I think that list was about 260 people, and we've got 220, and fine isn't the word. I mean, but they're here, they're ready, they're good to go. So we're slowly but surely getting up with everybody, and Facebook community is real good about, hey, I haven't heard from such and such. Oh, I talked to them. They're okay. They don't have any power, but they've got food and water. So we're just trying to make sure everybody's okay.
Yeah, and I know like search and rescue efforts are still ongoing in your community there back in Asheville. But you mentioned that you were on your way to Charlotte I think you said to get some supplies. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing to help the community there in Asheville as best you can.
Pretty much anything I can. I'm, I show up at the shelter. What can I do? Put me to work. Tell me what you need. And once everyone was able to secure their houses and get things in order, they're starting to come down in droves. There's not a shortage of our community in our small town of people that want to help. And one of the good things about living out in the middle of the woods, everyone has four-wheelers, everyone has side-by-sides, and half the community has tractors. So to watch the community come together, moving trees out of the way, cutting new roads for different people that can't get out, we're making it work. So I'm more or less going into a, like, what do we need specifically? Like, we got an influx of cans, but we didn't have can openers. So I'm going to get can openers. My wife, she set up a distribution center in the center of town for people to come pick up supplies. And I noticed maybe I should go get some backpacks. So I've got the van here emptied out. We're going to fill up with supplies and bring whatever we need.
Nice. Well, it's good to hear you're doing whatever you can. And I do like what you said about, something like this, that every time we see something like this, it's sad, it's devastating, but the silver lining is that it does seem to bring people together for a common cause, which in this day and age seems to happen less and less frequently, unfortunately. So it's on one hand, it's sad that it takes something like a natural disaster, but it's great to hear you talking about the folks in Asheville kind of once they're got kind of settled and they're able to go start helping with these recovery, rebuild, whatever it is in terms of getting life a little bit stable. But it sounds like, Shine, that Asheville is going to be impacted by what's happened there for quite some time. I mean, it sounds like highways are done. I was at Highway 40 that is, I think I saw it. I mean, it's going to be a year, they're saying, before it's back
26.
to
26 coming to
oh wow,
going 26 to Tennessee. They said something like next year or something was their best estimate on when they could get that going. I mean, they're doing their best. I was surprised to see how quickly the community came together to get things done and to take a lot of stress out of trying to organize coming to us. We've got a lot of people. We don't have a shortage of chainsaws where I live, and everybody's out there doing their part. We're getting trees out of the way so that they can get the power lines back up so that we can get the grid going. As far as, Asheville, they're still doing the same. I didn't mention I live in the middle of nowhere. So Burnsville is about maybe 30 minutes north of Asheville. So getting into Asheville and seeing stuff down there today, I don't know, it's heartbreaking. That's all you can say. I mean, you guys see it. They're taking videos and stuff and showing you, but it's when you're in it, you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah. For folks that are tuning in the APA community, watching this, that are thinking, man, I'd like to do something to help. I mean, I know there's organizations like the American Red Cross, Samaritan's Purse. What other ways can people that want to help I mean, again, I know you're out making runs. Is there a way people can, work with you to help the cause, or what can people do to get involved here?
So on my personal Facebook page and on my business Facebook page, Blue Ridge APA, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start organizing different things, whether it's raffles, whether it's, so get-togethers with our players. Just come on out. There's hot food. Come eat. That's going to be the next step. Right now, there is not a shortage of people that are coming from so many miles away to give to us. Like it's someone's coming from Myrtle Beach, a place that they know hurricanes like the back of their hand. They're coming to us to give us relief. There's not a shortage of that, but we just need, if you can get out and volunteer at a shelter, if you can get out and volunteer at a donation station, that's the only thing that I'm looking for with the community. Make sure you're good, make sure you're safe, but go out and volunteer. And then for me personally, I'm going to raise money, and it's going to be something that I want to give back to, I want to say a month from now, 2 months from now. Everybody is coming together now, but there's so many people that lost everything, and they're still going to need help, you know. So I'm trying to set up a way long term to help everybody. I know I'm in the middle of it, in the thick of it. My house got lucky. If the worst thing that happens to me today is I'm dead tired, I'm still dead tired in my bed. There's a lot of people that don't have that. So everything that I can do to give back to the community, the APA community, the community of all of my host locations. I know I lost one, so we're gonna try and help them. They were on the river, and it's just completely gone. So whatever you can do to help, donate to all the right places. I don't know the right names to tell you. I came down to the shelter and started working, so I haven't been in the know of like who's where or what. I'll put up, a lot of my donation places, and it's all going to go to the local community, to the right places, to the right people,
Yeah. Well, we are proud of you, Shine. I wish we were talking under different circumstances, obviously, but, we're hoping for the best for your league players, for your community there, for all the folks in Asheville. Of course, Asheville not the only area of the country that was hit by this storm, but we really do wish you all the best, and be safe. I know you're making long drives to get some of these supplies, so be safe on the roads there, and just keep doing what you can do. We're proud of you, buddy.
Thank you. And one more slight request. I remember it came up. We've got a lot of elderly people that use oxygen, and there is a machine. I don't know the name of it. Correct term is probably not doohickey, but there's a little doohickey that turns regular air into oxygen. If we can get hands on those, that would be a godsend. I've been putting it out on social media and stuff. I took a picture of it. I don't know, it's magic, but we have a bunch of empty cans now. If we can find ways to fill those back up, we can help a lot of people in our nursing home. Luckily, it held up, but there's been so many people displaced on oxygen that we're airlifting out, and we get them to us. We've got to be able to take care of them.
All right, good to know that too. Any way you folks out there can help, whether it's in Asheville or another community that's been hard hit by the hurricane, we would encourage you to do so. Shine, I want to let you run. I know time is of the essence for you. I appreciate you taking the time to literally pull over on the road there, talk to us for a few minutes about what's going on. Again, stay safe out there, and our best to all the folks back in Asheville.
All right, I definitely will. Thank you so much, too.
Take
care. Those pictures are something else.
I know. Just devastating.
I mean, just unbelievable to see what the damage looks like there. And, we should mention with that interview, I mean, Shine had to drive. Well, he was driving to Charlotte yesterday, and we reached out and said, hey, look, here's what we're doing. Can you take the time? I mean, he's obviously got a lot more things going on,
right.
But he felt it was important enough to, find. You heard him talk about the power grid and the fact that he's in Asheville and pretty far out from what he said off screen yesterday to us. But there's no service, there's no internet, there's no any of that, and so for him to take the time, we really appreciate that. And last night after we did that interview, and I was thinking about it, it's like like I said earlier, his business is done for the time being, right? Probably weeks, if not months. you don't hear him talk about that at all.
Not even
once.
once.
And I don't believe he's even thinking about it. He's simply thinking about what can I do to help the people in my community. I saw late last week on Facebook, he had gone out and he basically said, hey, look, I finally have some service from where I'm at. I don't know how long I'll have service, but he was encouraging his league members in the Blue Ridge APA to reach out to each other, make sure everybody's okay, try to connect if you can, and basically just doing what he can. You heard he's talking about his wife is doing search and recovery efforts.
And he literally said, I think, I hope she's okay.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So it's as real as it comes. I know it's not super pool related, but it is APA related in terms of, community and coming together and doing something to make a difference when it counts. And
Absolutely.
so that's what you're seeing there. And it's not just Shine that's doing these things. There are several others out there. In fact, we also talked to Don Ward yesterday. Don is the league operator in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area of North Carolina that was really not damaged by the hurricane whatsoever, but they're there in North Carolina. They are a big league, and Don felt some obligation to do something, kind of like Shine said, like if you can do something, whether that's donate time or kick in some money to one of these organizations, whatever you can do it. And so this is Don Ward, our league operator again in Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill APA, talking about what he and his league members are doing to make a difference.
We are here with Don Ward, APA Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill league operator. Don, how are you?
Good.
Don, it's pretty crazy, over the last week. It was this time a little before. It was last Thursday.
Yes.
This storm, this Hurricane Helene, was bearing down on the Gulf Coast of Florida, ultimately hitting the they call it the Big Bend there in Florida. But it didn't stop there. It really made its way. I think they said 500 miles now up right up the southeast, the middle of the southeast, and ultimately kind of leaving a path of destruction along the way. But amongst those communities that were hit hardest were some communities there in North Carolina, not necessarily where you are, right? You're kind of the Raleigh-Durham area, but that western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee area got just pummeled, is my understanding.
It's completely devastating.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, just from your perspective, kind of there in North Carolina, what you've seen, what you've heard, and then we'll talk a little bit how you ultimately are trying to make a difference and help some folks up there.
Sure. Well, obviously the social media and the news, it was pretty evident early on that Western North Carolina was going to have some problems up in the mountains area. And it's about a 3-hour trip from us here in Raleigh. So we were looking originally at trying to get some water and gas. I had a generator. It was just who could benefit from what we have. We're doing okay. What we found out was that the main interstate between here and Asheville, Interstate 40, is shut down. It got washed out in several spots, both the east side and west side of Asheville. There's a lot of towns up there, small towns that have no way of getting anywhere. So we just wanted to see if we could get something to them.
Yeah.
And so gas, we found out, wasn't an option because of laws. Water is tough because of everybody else buying it. So it's just what can we do?
Right.
And we found.
I was going to say. So talk to us a little bit about what you guys are doing, because you basically have set up with a number of your host locations to become drop-off points for certain things, and then ultimately you're going to be the person that gets those things up to primarily at this point it sounds like Asheville, North Carolina, which is one of the communities hardest hit. But talk about kind of what you were able to set up and how your players and surrounding APA league areas are kind of helping the cause there in North Carolina.
Sure. So a lot of emphasis has been put on the Asheville area, And I just want to make note that, there are so many small towns in and around Asheville that actually have been completely decimated. There's no way to get to them. There's no way to get out. What we found out is that there's an organization that's bringing in private pilots with small helicopters to do drops, pick up people, drop off supplies. And, you've got government and military vehicles and aircraft, but they're not small. And so these private helicopters are able to bring in supplies to areas that are just really, really difficult to get to. There was a story just yesterday. A lot of this is word of the mouth. They'll go to one drop and they'll find out that there's people another 10 miles in past where they are. They found 50 people that were cut off from everything, and they were able to get them out. So, the organization that we're donating to is Operation Airdrop. It's a private organization that helps with disasters, and they are set up with volunteers at a Walmart in Concord, North Carolina, and then they are shipping from there where they have all of their people to receive. They're weighing it, putting it onto trucks, and shipping it to other small airports where these private pilots can get it to the people in the most need.
Yeah. Yeah, and so folks can drop off at least in your league area or surrounding. They can drop them off at your host locations, and then you're actually going to be the guy that takes these things from your locations out to this drop-off point, right?
I've got an enclosed trailer, and I got a pickup truck, so we're just gonna go by these host locations and pick up what we can, and haul it up to Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, it's one of the things that we always talk about with APA, and this, this applies in a lot of different ways in life, but it really is about more than just pool. Mm-hmm. It's about coming together. It's about community, and obviously a lot of members in some of these communities that have been affected. So, Don, it's fantastic to see that you're doing what you can to not just make an impact, but to make an impact quickly, right? Because, obviously these folks are going to have a long road ahead in terms of recovery and rebuild, but for right now, it's really about survival.
Yeah, absolutely. They're already saying that some of the passes of the interstate are going to be closed well into the latter part of 25.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's logistics.
Yeah.
It's getting things to people that need it now, and anything we can do, we're more than happy to do. We know we've got a lot of players up in that area. We just hope we can help.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate what you're doing. We're proud of you, Don. Great job there, and I know it will certainly make a difference. And like I said, you're kind of living up to that more than just pool tagline that we like to throw around. So keep up the good work. Be safe.
Yeah, locally,
Go ahead.
Locally, we like to use the APA family, and the reality is, all of what I'm going to be taking up there is from them. So it's the players, getting the players involved, and letting them know that they can make a difference too.
Yeah, well, certainly a shout out to the folks, all the members there in the Raleigh-Durham area for helping out their neighbors there, and we wish you safe travels when you're taking that stuff over. I know that may be a long trip, but be safe and keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks,
Don. Take care, buddy.
Y'all take care.
It's another good story that comes out
Absolutely.
of absolute disaster, and so like Don said, it's his members coming together and
Mm-hmm.
doing what they can. So it's it's just crazy to hear about highways shut down, so you can't even access certain areas. And like he said, I know we've centered in on Asheville a little bit with these first few interviews, but there are many little towns around, not just Asheville or that part of North Carolina, but you've got areas of Georgia, South Carolina, areas of Florida. So it's certainly not just that area, but many areas. And so we wish the best for all of them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I do also want to mention, it's not just Don and Shine that are that are making a difference. A number of other league operators, Chris and Stephanie Seipel, they're part of the South Carolina Midland APA. Derek and Shante Barnes, who are Central Savannah River Area APA, who have been also hammered in this and yet are doing what they can to help their members. We talked about Shine and Blue Ridge in Asheville and Don Ward, of course, but William Hoyt in Southwest Georgia, another area that's hard hit, and here he is trying to do what he can to help his members. I know our good friend Ava Lawrence and her daughter Nikki Graham, not so much impacted by this particular hurricane, although being on the coast of South Carolina, they certainly have been previously, but they're part of the Coastal Carolina APA, and I know I caught on social media they were doing some things similar to get some supplies and to run them to where they could. So, this that is not in necessarily an all-inclusive list of everyone that is doing something.
Right.
But those are just ones that quickly I was able to kind of throw together. And so we just want to give a shout out to all the APA members, the league operators, the host locations who are doing whatever they can, whether that's within their own, to help their own community or to help another community get through this tough time. Yeah,
and we wish the best to all of those who are affected. And again, it just goes to show that we really are, I see on Facebook, I'm the one who runs our socials and stuff, and I see so often that people think it's all about the money or all about pool and all that, and it really, truly is not, and this really showcases that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. You listen to what these guys are talking about. They're not talking about business. They're talking about, helping people survive and helping people rebuild their lives and businesses, at the back of the, it's just not even part of the conversation at this point. So appreciate everything that they're all doing. I also want to mention I talked to APA President Greg Fletcher yesterday, and APA has made I believe it's a $5,000 donation to the American Red Cross, as well as a $5,000 donation to Samaritan's Purse, and those are both organizations that have boots on the ground in some of these areas and are obviously helping with relief efforts and doing whatever they can. So again, if you have the ability to help out, whether that's a financial donation to whether it's those organizations or any organization, frankly, that's tied to what's going on with this hurricane aftermath, do it. If you're close enough to where you can volunteer some time, some energy, organize some supply runs, whatever you can do. These folks are going to need it, and it's going to be, the tough thing about things like this is it gets highlighted, in the aftermath, but again, you're talking about weeks, probably months, and maybe for some folks longer to come back from this. So, just try to remember that as you move forward. So, tough stuff to talk about, but I like that we're highlighting the positivity that comes from something so terrible. So, now you want to figure out a transition to our next topic?
Yeah, I know. We talked about this beforehand. I'm like, how do we transition from that into our next topic?
I don't know if there's a good transition, so we'll just rip the Band-Aid off and get to it.
So let's talk, we talked at the beginning about Vegas, so we're kind of back on the topic of Vegas again, right?
Yeah, so it's never too far,
It's never too far from our minds, but I think it was our very first podcast, you had mentioned we should interview a referee.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know how many referees we take out to Vegas. It's dozens. I know that.
It is. I don't know the exact amount.
I know they're all APA members who basically volunteer their time to come out. Now, I think we pay for their flights and their hotels, and we give them
meal vouchers
and things.
Like
but otherwise, they're volunteering for a pretty thankless job. I don't think it's often that somebody goes and thanks their referee afterwards. But they are an integral part. You should really. But they are an integral part of what goes on out there. I don't know that the tournament happens without them.
No.
And so I wanted to figure out a way to highlight what some of these guys are doing and give a shout out to them. So that's where all that came from.
Yeah, it did. And so we kind of we looked around and tried to, find someone who would be fitting of a good interview. And actually, Kevin, the person who we ended up interviewing for this, reached out to us, which, showed us he watched our podcast and saw.
Somebody's watching.
Yeah,
That's good. It's good to know
our
somebody's
podcast
watching.
And saw that we were looking for somebody to interview. And Kevin McCarthy, he has been a referee for quite some time now, and we were familiar with Kevin. He's a referee in the championship arena, so we had kind of known who he was and thought he would be a good fit for this. So,
and he's got an interesting story.
He has quite an interesting story.
An interesting background from his pre-APA refereeing days that I think people will enjoy hearing. Anything else we want to add when I'm rolling this interview out?
No, I don't want to say too much, but you guys should just watch the interview.
There you go.
We are joined today by Kevin McCarthy, APA member in Phoenix, Arizona, and one of our head referees in Vegas. Kevin, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Becky. How are you?
Doing well.
Kevin, you look a lot different without the glasses. Where's the glasses?
I just wear those so I can see the shots.
Otherwise, okay.
I can take them off.
Those are a necessity when reffing only. All right. Well, we won't make you make any rulings today on the interview. So.
No, not today.
Sounds good. How are you, Jason?
Doing good. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
So, Kevin, why don't you kind of start out by telling us how did you get started in the APA?
Well, that's sort of a loaded question, Becky, but here we go. As probably many APA players, I, of course, played pool every now and then in a bar if there was an opportunity that arose. But where I really began my journey with APA, believe it or not, was in prison. And a lot of people don't even realize that story around the APA. But I spent 33 months in a federal prison for a crime I didn't knowingly commit. Not that I'm innocent. I did what I did, but I didn't realize my boss was actually committing one of the largest stock frauds in the history of the state of Washington. So 11 plus him, 11 other men and myself went to prison, spent a number of years in prison, depending on the individual. And so I won't give you too much of the information other than the fact that I took this job and did what I was told to do, had some red flags during the process, but was able to rationalize and justify the red flags as he was really good at manipulating the truth. And I was blinded by greed and some other things because I was vested heavily in the stock of that company. And so I find myself in a federal prison in sort of a dormitory style. It was a minimal security prison in Oregon. And so we didn't have fences around the property except on one side. We didn't have locks on the doors or bars on the windows. So it was prison, but it was chill prison, if that is a possibility. And so in our dorm, we had, I wouldn't recommend it for other people, but it wasn't awfully bad for me. I had 2 pool tables. We had one in each of our dorms. So that's where I really began to play more pool. Obviously, I had time on my hands. And this is where the journey began for APA, because I was playing against a young man who had recently arrived. And he started talking about being in a pool league before he got arrested. And I was intrigued. I'm like, pool league? There's pool leagues? Oh, my goodness. And so after I got out, a while later, I totally forgot about that conversation because I was obviously super excited just to be out of prison. And then I was watching television, and that's when I saw an APA ad while I was watching the 9-ball women's championships. And it was that was fate. I called the number, got hooked up at headquarters, referred over to the Salem League, which was about 30 minutes away from me in Oregon. And so I joined up with Randy Lee, and I've been an APA enthusiast ever since 2010.
Kevin, I've been at APA almost 25 years, and I've heard a lot of stories about how members have gotten involved in the league, but I think yours is the first that I've heard was born in the prison confines. So that's certainly an interesting twist on the story. Now, what I love about your story, Kevin, is that a lot of folks that maybe have experienced something like that, or been behind bars, what have you. In a lot of cases, I think people would want to push that history behind them, something they don't want to talk about, something they, kind of hide in their past. But you have taken the opposite approach, and you have really leaned in to this life experience, and you've kind of used it as a way to guide others or hopefully help others from, not necessarily running into the same issues as far as going to prison, but just in life in general. Can you talk about how you've leaned into that experience a little bit?
Absolutely. And again, very long story short, but once I landed in prison, let me back up. Before I went to prison, I was at the top of my game. I had just sold a company during the .com, and it was very financially lucrative. And then I lost a whole lot of my financing through some other stupid financial decisions in the stock market. Like, I'm not the brightest bulb in the barn when it comes to money. And so here I am in prison now, thinking, what in the world? How did I get here? How did I not know my boss was committing a crime? And so that began my journey into what's considered cognitive psychology. I had to understand what happened, what made me not see it. And so that was the beginning of what was the outcome was blind spots. I realized we all have blind spots. So while I was in prison, this passion grew to say, you know what? This is not my best moments in life. I'm somewhat embarrassed at that time, but I knew I just had this almost calling. I felt this passion to go out and help other people learn how to understand what their blind spots are, and then learn, get the tools and learn how to mitigate those blind spots. And so, because we all have them, and then I realized this isn't just about going to prison. This is like everybody's got blind spots. So it's whether you're making small decisions or big decisions, you're in relationships, whether it's your significant other or at business and you're leading teams or you're working with colleagues. It's like these blind spots impact all of that. So that's what caused me to want to go ahead and open up. Now, it wasn't easy. I got out of prison in 2007 and thought I would jump right into speaking, which I had done prior, and fell flat on my face because I had to deal with all the shame of that stigma, if you will. But once I healed and had some help healing, I started the process. In that process, I ended up writing a book, and the book became an Amazon bestseller. And from that, I've had speaking events pretty much everywhere, whether it's keynotes, training, online courses, and you name it. So that's how I've leaned into it, Jason.
Yeah, I love how you've taken a very negative in your life and turned it into a positive and something to help others. I think that's great. So let's kind of flip the script a little bit and talk about how you became a referee at our events in Vegas. I mean, obviously you started playing APA, got, I'm sure, heavily involved, but at what point did you get involved being a referee?
Yeah, so starting in 2010, played in Salem for a while, then I moved up to Portland area, so I was in the Merle and Boomers League, and one year, and I don't remember exactly what year it was, I want to say it was maybe 2016, 2015, somewhere in that area, I found out that they hold an annual referee training meeting. So Merle's been doing this for years with his right hand, John Blue, and every February, first weekend of February, they have this all-day event where if you want to become a ref, or if you're a team captain, you just want to know more about the rules and how to watch shots and everything else, you're all invited, right? So I jumped in. I decided, why not? I don't know what's going to happen here, but I loved it. It was a great experience. And then I didn't know if I passed the tests and everything that took place that day, and suddenly I get a phone call and Merle congratulated me on being selected to be a local ref. So now I am refereeing some of the local events, the smaller ones, being called upon to go and referee teams occasionally that had conflicts between them, and it was league night, and that could be a problem. And so, we just go sit there and watch them and answer their questions, watch shots if they asked us. I did that for, I think a couple years, Jason, Becky. It was 2018 when John Blue called me and said, hey, I've got an opening for a referee in Vegas, and I would love to put your name in. So 2018 was the very first year that I started refereeing in Vegas.
Very cool. So how has that experience refereeing in Vegas been for you?
It's literally the highlight of my year. I mean, I love my vacations, don't get me wrong, and what we do in our personal lives, But I look forward to, first of all, the community, the teams, all the people there, the staff, all the volunteers, my colleagues, my referee friends and colleagues. I just look forward to it every year. So twice a year, it's like, okay, great, spring, and here comes the summer event. So it's been a really good experience that I look forward to. We can go in more detail, obviously, but
Yeah, go into a little more detail for us. Like, what does a typical day in the life of a referee look like for you in Vegas?
yeah, that's a typical day. So typical day is, pretty much we prepare to arrive at our shift, and shifts can be 6 hours, 7 hours, depending on the shift. And we arrive about 45 minutes early. At least I like to get there even as early as an hour early. Get ready, put our smocks on, get all of our equipment, get the lay of the land, what's to expect today. Look at the boards where we keep an eye on, if there's any issues like sportsmanship violations that have happened up until that point in the event. We're aware of that. And then we get our instructions from our team leader, which we are known as floor managers, and then we start our shift. So typical day in working the shift is super fun. First of all, I love the game. So I'm constantly watching all the players as much as I can. We have seats, but you'll find that I tend to not want to sit down. I like to move around and just kind of watch the game because it's so fun to watch everybody play. It doesn't matter what your skill levels are. And as I'm walking around watching people play, I'm also watching for fouls and defense marks. And of course, I don't jump in if I see fouls or anything like that unless I'm asked. But I watch for that kind of thing. And then I'm available. I want to make sure everybody knows where I'm at. So if they have a need for a ref, then they can call me over and I can be as readily available as possible. And then after the shift, we usually go back, drop off all of our stuff, and then go get some rest, especially get off the feet, because my feet are like barking at me by the time I'm done with the shift.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It's interesting to hear you say that it's how much fun it is, because I
Yeah.
would have thought it would have been like very stressful.
Agreed.
To me, the role of a good referee or umpire or whatever the sport is where you're an official is, it's kind of like good service at a restaurant. Like,
Right.
everything should be seamless, but you really shouldn't notice it, right? So I'm curious, like, have there been stressful moments? Like, what was the most difficult situation you've encountered in Vegas, I guess?
Oh boy. Yes,
Or one
there
of
are.
them.
Certainly, I know. There's which one? There's plenty of stressful moments. We're there to serve. We're there to help. We want to help all the teams have fun, have a good time, and compete well. But sometimes tensions get high, and suddenly we get pulled into that tension. Or sometimes I'm the one who caused the tension, not intentionally. I've just called a shot, and that just made everybody upset. One team usually. And so probably the hardest time though was almost a personal attack, not physically on me, but it was right after COVID, and we all got back together in that we were all wearing masks, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a tense moment for everybody. Nobody wanted to wear those masks in the well, I shouldn't say nobody. Some people did. But it's like it would have been nicer not to have them when we're playing pool. And we were, making sure that the people were keeping their masks on to make everybody comfortable. And one guy that was standing by the team, and I don't know that he was an active player on the team, but he was right there with the team. He started giving me a hard time, and to the point, I won't go into all the details, but to the point where I ended up having to call a floor manager, who then called the tournament director, and they started watching this person, and I'm just kind of doing my job now. I'm just kind of not going to pay attention to him, even though he's making hand gestures, if you will, at me any chance he gets. And then I find out from the tournament director, he said, "Did you see what he just did?" And I was like, "No, fortunately I didn't." He goes, "What happened?" He goes, "Well, we ejected him from the, not just the tournament, but from Westgate. He was actually standing 2 aisles over, and he was, again, making hand gestures and trying to distract me from my job." Fortunately, like I said, I didn't see him, but that was a very tense moment, I think, for me, because it felt personal, whereas most of the time, none of the calls or anything else becomes personal at that level.
Yeah, I'm sure that was difficult. And I remember that event well. It was challenging to, like you said, most people did not want to wear masks. Clark County, though, at the time which is where Las Vegas is, required them, and so we had to require everybody to keep them on, so the event didn't get shut down. And so that was a little bit of a crazy time, but certainly in kind of an interesting story. And the fact that why he would take that out on you in particular is strange to me. But at what point? So we talked about being a referee, but at some point you graduated from not just being a referee at our events in Las Vegas, but moving into Pool Dog Arena, which is where we do all of the championship finals. And it seems like you're a staple of the referees that are always in there now. And so how did that come about, and what is that experience like?
That of all of my APA experiences so far, that tops it. I mean, I'm certainly humbled and honored to even be in that arena as a championship finals referee. And it's how do I get there? I don't know. I mean, it's like nobody ever said, "Hey, we're going to bring you in because A, B, C, and D."
You just woke up one morning in Pool Dog Arena and went at it, right?
That's right. I went to bed one night. How did I get here?
How did I get here?
Did a floor meet? I mean, who asked you to go in there?
I know. At that point, so I think it was a couple years ago now, and at that point, I believe it was Dana Patton, one of the floor managers. Her and I had been on the same team on the floor when she was a floor manager, and then she moved into the arena as well as one of the finals team leaders. And so I believe she was the one that asked me the very first time, and then from that point on, it's Zach Rose, the tournament. I'm not sure his title now. He got promoted, but the person at headquarters there who handles all of the referee, scheduling and so forth, he usually puts me on that list. But what I do understand is at the end of every tournament, our floor managers, these are league operators who volunteer their time, and they run us as teams. We have multiple teams. And so our individual floor managers are asked, and I think even fill out a survey about each individual ref. And how did they do? Would you have them back, and so forth? I haven't seen the survey, but that's what I understand is a big part of whether you're coming back to Vegas as a ref, and possibly will you have an opportunity to be a ref in the Pool Dog Championship room.
Nice. Well, I mean, I certainly you've earned your opportunity to be in there because you've come back now year after year in there. But what's interesting about Pool Dog Arena, Kevin, and I don't know that a lot of people realize this, because it's kind of been an evolution of things in there as we've transformed that room into what it is today. But the other big transformation with the match itself is that the referees are now actively involved in calling the match. And when I say actively involved, it used to be that you only got involved in the match, even in the finals, if one of the teams asked for a referee to watch a hit or rules clarification, what have you. But now you guys are actually charged with being actively involved. If you see something that happens on the table, even if you've not been asked to watch, you have to make a call. And so what has that evolution been like from your perspective?
Wow, I remember that very well. First time we implemented that, and I was asked to be in the finals championships. I believe it was for the 8-ball championships that particular time. It was highly stressful. You're on heightened alert with everything. We have to watch. We have to know. We have to keep a log in our head of which team is stripes, which team is solids, that kind of thing. If it's doubles, who's going to be up to the table next. That we have to make sure we're conscious, or always paying attention, because it's us. It's up to us to make those calls, and we don't have to wait any longer, right? I remember one of the matches for 8-ball. I'm sure a lot of people will remember this. I actually accidentally racked the 8-ball on the back row of the rack, and then the player broke. They played the whole game. Nobody saw it in the arena, but of course, Facebook feed with heads down, camera shots. They saw it. I didn't even believe I did it. I was like, no way, I did not do that until I watched it on video. Blind spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, that live stream has to be a whole other level of added pressure too for you guys.
Yeah, it really is, because just for that very reason, I mean, everybody can see, and it's recorded forever, what's going on. So, we're human, but we may make mistakes, but for the most part, we are really very actively thinking about everything going on in that arena at that time during a match so that we can be proactive and not just reactive. And in fact, for example, if it looks like a player is going to do a defensive shot up against a ball that's on the rail, we just walk over and we'll look to see if it's frozen. If it is, we'll call it, and then we'll watch the hit. And if it's not, let them shoot it, right? So we've got to always be watching what's going to happen next.
Nice.
Yeah. So what keeps bringing you back to Vegas year after year?
Well, you and Jason.
I thought you were going to say the weather.
Okay.
I thought you loved the weather. I know you're a Phoenix guy,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you love that dry, hot air, right?
Yeah. Love
It's a
my
dry
movie,
heat,
that
right?
region. It's a dry heat, yes, and it's just as hot as everywhere else. No, really, I seriously look forward to it. I put it on my calendar, and always, every single year, I cross my fingers and hope that I don't get a client asking me to come and speak for their event during APA, and I've actually turned one down because I thrive in there. I love the community. Like I said earlier, the colleagues, you guys, all the staff at APA, you run a phenomenal event. Everybody, for the most part, is having a great time. The energy is unbelievable. So all of you who are aspiring to get to Vegas, get there, because you won't even believe it until you're there. You even come up and play the mini tournaments, even if you're not on the roster to play anywhere else in the arena, because you'll have a great time doing it. At least I know I do.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, we appreciate everything that you do and all the referees do, really. Again, all volunteers that come out to Vegas for 2 weeks and a lot of times give up their vacation time or time with their families to help run the event. And kind of a thankless job, but really appreciate that you guys are willing to do it. And also, thank you for jumping on here, talking a little bit about your history and how you got involved in APA and that kind of thing. So it's good to see you just in general.
Absolutely. Great to see you all. Hey, do you mind if I give a quick shout out?
You shout away.
Go ahead.
All right. Hey, Merle and Boomer, thank you for helping me groom into this APA world really well. Randy Lee, you started me off. And then my friend John Blue, who's the head coach in Oregon, who really was a mentor, still is. And then my friend who I met there in Vegas, now a long-term friend, Robert Taylor, who is also a mentor. Robert took me under his wings as soon as John Blue decided to retire, and has really been a close confidant, or comrade, I guess. Confidant, comrade, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, shout out to all of you. Appreciate all you guys, and thanks for all you do.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Kevin, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in Vegas soon, buddy.
Thanks, Kevin.
Sounds good. Take care, y'all.
Take care.
Told you, he's an interesting
He
dude.
was,
Interesting
very much
story
so.
from federal prison to Pool Dog Arena.
And I had no idea when we selected him, his whole past, like his
Yeah,
story.
I
and
actually
everything.
did. Kevin's a great guy.
Absolutely.
Actually sat down maybe 2 years ago in Vegas for breakfast with him, and at the time I didn't know his story either. And so we talked, and I was just fascinated. I actually have a copy of his book that I at one point started reading out there, and I need to get back to finishing that book off. His book, Blind Spots, that he showed there. I think that's probably still available on Amazon or somewhere on the internet there if you want to search Blind Spots. Kevin McCarthy, good read, but interesting story. But I do have the utmost respect for those guys, especially when they get into the arena, because it's such a
100%.
high pressure situation, and you can hear how much he enjoys it though. It's as I think about it, it seems like it would be very stressful, nerve-wracking, but he seems to really embrace it. And I'm guessing that's what drives most of our referees. And I know you talked to or got some feedback from some other referees as well.
I did. I went onto Facebook and asked for some additional feedback, stories, whatever you might want to call it. And that was the majority of what people said. So I thought that we'd share some of those as well to kind of recognize some of the other referees that we've got out there. So I'll do the first one. This one comes from Zachary Taylor. He said, I've reffed 3 times now, and each time has been great, meeting people from all over the world, gaining new friends, and I got lucky enough to win the referee tournament my first time out there. So again, it seems
My
like
turn?
he's had a great time out there.
I got the next one.
You
right?
got the next one, yeah.
All right, this one is from Catherine Massey?
Massey? I don't know,
Massey?
she has a pool name.
She was
Massey?
born a referee
Yeah.
with that last name. Catherine said meeting new people from all over, which certainly agree with. Watching some of the greatest pool being played, the support from the players. It's a great feeling when a lot of players thank you for your time to referee, and when they check in to see if you need anything, like a glass of water. That is impressive. She mentions the APA staff and all their support. She said in 2022, she had to de-escalate a confrontation between two players that were playing on a table next to each other, and she won the most valuable referee for that year. So she really enjoys refereeing and being part of the tournament. So that's great, and I'm glad to hear. She mentions that people are actually thanking her, and
right.
which is good. Not something I would expect, but I like hearing that. It's great.
Yeah. This one's from Kevin Tessmacher,
yeah, I know
Senior.
Kevin.
Yep, we know Kevin. He's been around for quite some time too, as well. He says, I have some great memories since I started reffing for the first time at the Riviera in 2013. So he has been, and like you said, we know Kevin. He's been around for some time. Then when we switched to the Westgate, watching them implode the Riviera, 2 of the best years was when I won Most Valuable Referee for my first time in 2017, and then again in 2021 when we didn't have a tournament in 2020, so it was twice as big of a tournament. Plus all the friendships that have developed between players from all over the country and all the different league operators. That has been awesome for me. APA strong, Brevard APA is the best.
Yeah, and I know Kevin, I believe, is actually a cancer survivor. I think it was 2 years ago when I saw him out there. He looked noticeably different. He had gone through his cancer treatments, and yet there he was. He had not
and
finished
he's back
much.
in Vegas.
He's back in Vegas, doing what he loves to do. So shout out to him and everything he does for APA.
Awesome.
Next one came in from Nelson Toll. He said, I've reffed a few times over the last couple years. I don't think I have any story that's just so awesome or anything. More like I have great memories with the guys and girls who volunteer just like me, and we just have this amazing time. I'm pretty sure that most that volunteer feel about like I do and really like pitching in to help not only in Vegas but also locally, which we don't really, we talk a lot about
really
Vegas,
talked about
but
that.
Referees locally as well. Said I met some really awesome people from all across the country, not only other refs but also a lot of the teams that have been in my area I ref. Talking to them and hearing their stories of how they got there is such a thrill. Watching all these teams shoot, especially the Masters teams, is just an amazing thing to watch. Some of my greatest memories in Vegas have come from refereeing out there, so that's nice.
Yeah. This one comes from Wade Wetzel. He says, I have reffed in Vegas a few times. There's really a whole bunch of good memories of meeting people from all over the country. It's amazing to watch some great matches while doing so. I really hope to get the opportunity again and that I'm able to do so.
Yeah, it's a few people now talking about people from meeting people from all over and similar passions and all that. And then our last one came in from Shane Blankenship. He said, I was a ref at the Riviera for many years, and the best stories were from the pool parties. When the ladies from APA staff had rolls of drink tickets, they passed out to us. Great times at the Riviera.
I had to throw that one in there.
Had a few, yeah. I remember some of those drink tickets.
Memories, right?
Some long Friday mornings. I feel like that was always a Thursday
pool.
night. Yeah.
Yeah, always.
Friday mornings, everybody was dragging a little bit towards the tail end of the event. So definitely know what he's talking about there.
We do at that old Riv pool.
Yep. Old Riviera.
The old Riv pool parties.
It's crazy to think that the Riviera has been gone now, 2015, almost 10 years.
Oh my gosh,
and
you're right.
We still talk about it fondly, I think it's the memories more than the space.
It is. And what's funny is we complained the whole time we were there, and yet now we talk about it like,
that's how it goes.
I know.
That's how it goes. So, well, we've managed to extend our timeline here again. We went over the hour mark.
We always say we're not going over an hour, and here we are. I think
there was a lot of important things to talk
was.
about, and I know we kind of changed up the show a little bit at the last minute.
It's okay.
But I think it was important.
It was.
And I really appreciate everybody that jumped on to talk to us today, from Shante Barnes, Blue Ridge APA, Don Ward, Chapel Hill, Raleigh, Durham APA, and of course Kevin McCarthy, our referee in Vegas. So appreciate them. Appreciate all of you referees out there and all you folks tuning in today.
Yeah. And good luck to everybody, and we will see you guys next month.
Sooner than later, I'm sure.
Sooner than later,
See you guys.
absolutely.
Thanks
All
for
right.
tuning in.
Take care, guys.